My name is Caitlin Shaw, and I am 32 years old. I'm a financial manager, and I've spent my life trying to earn my family's love. But at my parents' 40th anniversary dinner in a crowded Chicago restaurant, my father stood up, raised his glass, and said the words that shattered everything. "We wish your sister was our only child." The room fell silent. My sister's smug smirk was the final, cruel confirmation of a lifetime of favoritism. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just stood up, walked out, and made a decision that would change all of our lives forever. 1 week later, their wish came true in a way they never expected, and their perfect world began to implode. If this happened to you, what would you do? Let me know in the comments and tell me which country you're from. I'm always amazed by how far these stories reach. Growing up in the Shaw household meant living in my older sister Natalie's shadow. While Natalie's achievements were met with cheers and celebration, mine were met with quiet expectation or outright dismissal. I remember the year I won the state science fair with my project on renewable energy. I came home, trophy in hand, heart bursting with pride, only to find my parents helping Natalie pick out dresses for her junior prom. "That's nice, dear," my mother said without looking up from the fabric swatches. "Just put it on the kitchen counter." Meanwhile, Natalie's B- in algebra had been treated like a family crisis that required emergency ice cream and a long discussion about managing stress. This pattern continued into adulthood. I became a successful financial manager, building a career through relentless work and sharp instincts. Natalie bounced between marketing jobs, each one supposedly more prestigious than the last, though her actual accomplishments were always vague. Yet, at every family gathering, Natalie held court. She'd talk about leveraging brand synergies and disrupting market paradigms, and my parents would hang on her every word. If I mentioned closing a major deal or saving a client from financial ruin, the conversation would inevitably drift back to Natalie's latest big idea. The real irony was their family business, a boutique home goods store that had been in my mother's family for generations. It was their pride and joy, but it was bleeding money. Bad investments, poor inventory management, and a refusal to adapt to modern retail were slowly killing it. So guess who they came to for help? Not their brilliant marketing whiz daughter, Natalie. They came to me. It started small. "Caitlin, could you look at these supplier invoices? They seem high." Then it became, "Caitlin, we're falling behind on the property tax. Could you help us out just this once?" That "just this once" turned into a $500 monthly transfer from my personal account to keep their lights on. It evolved into me spending my Sunday afternoons hunched over their books, untangling financial messes that would have made a seasoned accountant weep. I remember one particular Sunday. I'd spent 6 hours restructuring their debt, creating a payment plan that would save them thousands in interest. When I presented it to my parents, my father glanced at it for barely a second before pushing it aside. "Natalie thinks we should focus more on social media presence. She's putting together a presentation on influencer marketing. Now, that's forward thinking." I looked at my mother, hoping for some acknowledgement of the 40-page financial analysis I'd prepared. She was already on the phone with Natalie, gushing about how innovative her ideas were. The night of their 40th anniversary dinner, I walked into that upscale Chicago steakhouse feeling a familiar sense of dread. The air was thick with the smell of seared meat and expensive perfume. I'd spent $1,200 on a new dress for the occasion, hoping maybe tonight would be different. For the first hour, it followed the usual script. Natalie was holding court, explaining her groundbreaking concept for pop-up shops to our captivated relatives. Then my uncle turned to me. And Caitlin, how's the high finance world? Still crunching numbers? Before I could answer, I saw my chance. I'd recently completed a deep analysis of their store's inventory and found they were losing $4,000 monthly on slow-moving ceramic figurines. Actually, I found a way to save the store thousands by optimizing the inventory mix and renegotiating with your primary vendor. The table went quiet. Natalie's smile didn't falter. It just grew sharper. "Oh, Caitlin," she said with a condescending chuckle, "always with the spreadsheets. You can't reduce a business to numbers. It's about the story, the brand experience." My mother immediately jumped in. "Natalie's right, dear. We're not just selling products, we're selling a lifestyle." My father didn't even look at me. He just stared adoringly at Natalie and said, "Your sister understands the big picture." That's when my father stood up, tapping his champagne flute with a knife. "To 40 wonderful years," he began, his voice filled with emotion. He praised my mother, thanked their friends. Then his eyes settled on Natalie. "And to our greatest blessing, our daughter Natalie. She's everything we could have hoped for in a child." He paused, his gaze flickering to me with something that looked like disappointment. "Sometimes we think, well, we wish Natalie was our only child." The silence that followed was heavier than I've ever experienced. Forks froze midway to mouths. My aunt gasped softly. Natalie didn't even have the decency to look uncomfortable. She preened under the attention, offering me a triumphant little smirk. My mother reached for her wine glass, saying nothing to contradict her husband. In that moment, every late night I'd spent fixing their finances, every dollar I'd transferred from my hard-earned savings, every dismissed suggestion and overlooked achievement, it all crystallized into a cold, hard certainty. I would never be enough for them. I stood up slowly, my chair making no sound on the plush carpet. I looked at my father, then my mother, then my sister. "Enjoy the rest of your celebration," I said, my voice remarkably steady. I turned and walked out, my $1,200 dress swishing around my legs, each step taking me further from the prison of their approval. That night, sitting in my silent apartment, I didn't cry. I got angry. Then, I got smart. I opened our family group chat and typed 3 sentences. "The monthly transfers stop now. Consider my free financial consulting terminated. You are on your own." I hit send, then blocked all their numbers. The aftermath was brutal and satisfying. The store collapsed within months. Tax liens, supplier lawsuits, eventual bankruptcy. My parents lost both the business and their home. Natalie's marketing genius couldn't save what basic financial literacy could have preserved. Meanwhile, I focused on my career, my true friends, and building a life where I was valued for who I am, not what I can provide. Thank you for listening to my story. If you've ever faced similar family dynamics, I'd love to hear your experience in the comments. And if this resonated with you, please subscribe to the channel for more real stories about setting boundaries and finding strength.